We good to go? All right, we will call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone. This is the September meeting of the County Planning Commission. We'll start by everybody standing, doing an invocation of the pledge. Dear Lord, thank you for this day and the many blessings you bestowed upon us. Be with us this evening as we conduct the town's business. Give us wisdom and guidance to make the correct decisions. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Kathy Bullen, Billy Harkins.
Here.
Tom Hobson,
Here.
Wanda Radford, Bill Nuss,
Here.
Robert Taylor,
Here.
Charles Day.
Here. Okay, everybody here, we've got a quorum. Everyone has in their packet a copy of last month's, well, no, I guess it's June. We haven't had a meeting in a while, have we? June's meeting minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve June meeting minutes. Any comments, discussion?
Kathy Bullen. Yes. Billy Harkins.
Yes.
Tom Hobson,
Yes?
Wanda Radford. Yes. Bill Nuss,
Yes.
Robert Taylor,
Yes.
Charles Day.
Yes. Okay, motion carries, minutes are approved. Moving on, announcements, we don't have anything, anybody have any announcements that aren't on the agenda? All right, new business. First item, consider and recommend for rezoning property located at 3232 Unicoi Drive from B3 to A1. And I'll take this because this happens to be my request. This is a lot that is located across from the tire plant. All the surrounding lots are A1. This April of 2005 from A1 to B3, I guess it was during a sale of the property, and they were going to put a business on the property, and that never happened. So this is the only lot that's B3, and like I say, I'd like to request that it get rezoned to A1, and then
Any discussion? The third page from the back, it shows you this, property surrounded by the A1, there's empty on the other side, but it shows you where this is located and just reverted back to the original zone.
We have a second. Kathy, you did. Any
Conversation.
Charles, any discussion? All in favor, I guess Kathy? Roll call? Yeah. Kathy?
Kathy Bullen.
Vice chair. Yes.
Bill? Yes. Todd? I'll abstain.
One. Donuts, yes. Robert?
Next item, discuss possible rezone at Budget Inn property by the new owner, Sean Miller.
Hello.
Hello, you must be Mr. Miller.
I go by that name, yes.
Nice to meet you.
I'm here. I've tried to work with just about everybody I can contact and try to get this place fixed up. And evidently the first step is to get it rezoned. Of course, being a little bit nervous, I thought I'd bring some information and up and just kind of go over it. And business selling disc brake parts and internet. I did $1.5 million in parts last year. In the last 3 years, I worked very hard to grow my real estate business. I have over 100 residents currently, and they're all within 40 minutes of ETSU. I buy properties in bad shape and fix them up, like flippers do, except I rarely sell them. Right now, one of the properties I'm working on is 10 townhomes in Elizabeth. The yard was drastically overgrown. They had no laundry facilities, no heat pumps. One of the septic systems that failed. It was a real mess. I installed a new laundry room, a new septic tank, fixed the failed one, bush hogged it, reseeded it, parking lot redid. I'm currently in the process of installing heat pumps. We've been there for about a month, taking care of neglected maintenance items. The property's finished, it'll be beautiful again. When I bought this motel with a similar vision, I want to convert it into micro studio apartments. Each room is about 12 by 28 for about 336 square foot. This will provide affordable housing for those in need in the area. As I'm sure you're aware, rent has gone up significantly. A large part of this rent increase is the immigration to our area from western states like California, the Northeast, and even Florida. Johnson City was recently named number 3 in the United States. The side effect is many low-end rental properties are being sold as landlords cash in on the housing demand. This in turn is making it difficult for people in fixed incomes to find a property to live. I believe I can provide them a home for about $600 a month, including utilities. While I thought this was an original idea when I bought it, I started doing research and found many others have done it before. I've got a link here to a YouTube video. If you only watch a few minutes, I would recommend starting at 12 minutes and 25 seconds, where he mentions the smaller units and the quickest. He also mentioned many of his tenants are young professionals trying to save money. I made a link to that. I understand the problems with the previous owner, Ray. I've heard so much about it. It was crazy. I've read the reports, spoken to the sheriff, spoken to the deputy back here about it, and I'm not going to make that sort of problem again. I carefully screen my tenants. I'll never claim to be perfect, but I do have experience with this. My plan is to get 10 units ready at a time and rent them out gradually. I'll be doing the 1-year minimum lease, no more than 2 occupants per room. Ideally, I look for long-term, multiple-year tenants. There are about 70 units in this hotel, and I have 5 acres. I want to make it an asset to the community instead of an embarrassment. I want to make it something that I could recommend a family member to stay at. I'm very active in my properties. I know my tenants, and they know me. I'm familiar with working with local governments. I've gotten permits from the city of Bristol, Virginia, city of Elizabeth, Greenville, and even Johnson City. I have a 72,000 square foot warehouse on Buffalo Road, about 10 minutes from here. That's where I base my operations out of. I also rent out most of it. I had to go through the city and involve an architect to divide it up into smaller units and add offices in the bathroom. In 2011, I even hired Dwight Carroll to work with me on remodel Elizabeth. I really enjoyed working with him. I've already spoken to Doug at Premier Fire. He said the current sprinkler system is usable and can be brought up to code for about $20,000. I already had the roof repaired. I've spoken with the electrical inspector and Acorn Electric. Both said the current electrical system is okay, but will need to be repaired and updated with GFCI outlets and such. Each room originally had a kitchenette and PTAC heat pump, so no major modifications will be needed there. I've spoken with the fire marshal. We'll be installing a central fire alarm system. The fire department recently bought the building literally across the street from the motel, so that's an extra layer of safety. I have a report from a structural engineer. There's a couple of major problems. One is a patio that will need to be demolished or resupported. The other is a failing retaining wall. I already have a stamped proposal for fixing the retaining wall. I'll work through all these problems one at a time and get them all resolved. I don't need to move any, I don't plan to move any walls. We'll be doing repairs and maintenance to the electrical system and getting permits as needed. We'll not be doing any major plumbing other than repairs as needed. The sprinkler system will be taken care of as needed. The majority of the work is cosmetic, such as drywall repair, paint, and flooring. Because we're not making any significant change to the building, I don't plan to hire an architect. At first, I thought I would hire an architect, as it was recommended, but then I got the price quotes of $35,000 to $50,000. We're basically going to draw the building as it is and hand us a piece of paper saying this is what it looks like. Attached is a copy of the retaining wall repair and a survey from Doug Treadway. He said he'd provide me a full-size copy, but I have to be able to acquire it. Also printed the zoning ordinance in case we have any questions regarding it. In general, I tried to speak with everybody involved, including the neighbors, which are excited to hear my vision. I will be doing the right thing, doing it right in each room, and it'll be nice. Before I can do any of this, I need to have the property rezoned from R1 to R2, according to Asher Planning Commission. That's why I'm here for you today, is to request that zoning change.
I'm gonna try to be real quick. This
Yes,
is
please.
Purely discussion,
Yes,
because there are some things that need to be addressed before we do that.
yes.
And we have spoke about this, we should be made aware of the things that need to be discussed. So right now, we are not making a vote
No.
or recommendation for the reason, not tonight.
Yeah.
She said we had to wait 30 days.
Well, you gotta post notice.
A public notice, and there's just things that need to be addressed
Yes,
prior to the reason.
yes. And I think one is the court's involvement.
Mr. Miller, I'm Elizabeth Jones. I'm the attorney for the town of Unicoi. And I'm sure you're familiar with the injunction issued out of criminal court.
I heard that it can never be a motel again, but that's all. I didn't know that there's any long-term.
That is something that you'll want to be familiar with. And I have some copies that I will give to you, but there's more that needs to be satisfied in order to move forward. The court issued a temporary injunction. The last agreed order that was made with the state and approved by the court stated that not only can it not be a motel or a hotel, but also all the structural repairs need to be made. And someone also needs to pay the restitution into the crime fund. The restitution is fairly low amount. It's around $1,000 that Mr. Mahithia owes, or the new owner, someone to pay into that. And the structural defects, you alluded to some of those in your report, some serious defects. We also had a report done by an engineer, and it included defects with the steel joists, steel beams, a concrete slab that needs to be evaluated to see if it's properly reinforced. So there are some serious issues. I did speak with the current DA, and his position is that this agreed order needs to be followed by you or by Mr. Mahithia in order to lift the injunction.
Let me repeat that back to you. I think you said somebody needs to pay approximately $1,000.
Mhm.
Now, we don't need to do repairs before we get a rezoned, right? Because that, it's kind of a switcheroo there. It's
Well,
rezoned, then we repairs.
I would suggest to you and the board that this is a very serious issue and should be settled before moving forward.
Court has control.
I understand court has control.
Yeah,
Um,
you've got other issues besides us. I think more serious issues besides the planning commission. You've got the injunction that you gotta take care of. That's,
And I heard part of that injunction requires certain features to be corrected.
To fix all structural defects of the building.
Before the injunction will be lifted, so that's an investment of whatever that would be.
So is there anything in that injunction that says the zoning board is prohibited from rezoning the property?
No, no, but you've got, that's more important. Because right now, that's saying that you can't do anything without the court's approval.
I plan to do all that anyway.
Yeah.
But Asher was telling me it takes months for the zoning. And so I kind of need to get the zoning underway, get that approved, and get the engineers in there, get all.
How about
This
this?
has to be done before anything else can be done, in my opinion.
And I think also getting, they say that the state inspection, they had to go through that instead of our regular inspection, because the state inspection will be looking if there's asbestos, if there's any thoughts in that. And I think some of our inspectors are here that may be able to give us some information on that.
Well, I know the state fire marshal had a hold on it too.
Yeah, they have, it has to go through a state
Right, I already
inspection.
spoke with state fire marshal. In general, I thought I spoke with everybody, including the mayor, the recorder. Surprised to hear this about the injunction, other than I knew it could be a hotel. Okay, I don't plan to make a hotel, so I thought that was irrelevant. So this is kind of my first.
There are other stipulations in the order.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a copy of that?
No, I don't. I haven't, this is the
When
first time I've seen it.
when we initially spoke, I gave you a list of people and list of things that were wrong with the land and the building itself. Legal issues were one of the things I did mention.
Yes,
At that point, I'm not a lawyer, I will not speak on that.
I'm not trying to blame you. I'm just saying, apologize for this, as I thought was simply.
Well, you bought a property that's got a bad reputation. We have a bad taste in our mouth over that piece of property. And it's gonna take some smoothing. It's gonna take you to cut through some hoops and get us to.
I'll be glad to catch you.
And I think y'all read that report, it's from 2020, and I don't know if any of that's been addressed, so it has some structural problems. It has some structural problems.
Would you please, I guess, to
Sure.
continue to this?
So I'm Jim Sullivan, contract building inspector. And I've had some, Sean, we haven't met yet. We talked on the phone. We have talked on the phone. One of the things that we did discuss, I just want to share with the board as well. The retaining of an architect is not an option. So that's going to be something you are going to be required to do in order to change the use from a hotel to an apartment complex. You're going to have a permit, and it's going to come from the state fire marshal's office. The town of Unicoi does not have jurisdiction of the building permits in this facility. The reason for that being is that we are a non-exempt jurisdiction. So what that means is that commercial residential occupancy, such as hotels, multiple dwellings, apartment buildings, fall under the jurisdiction of the state fire marshal's office for plan review and for inspection. So one of the requirements that you'll have, and this is beyond the zoning question, so you're correct. The first step for you is you do want to get this thing rezoned before, make sure that, first of all, you can do multi-unit apartments on it. So that's step one. But when we get past that step, the next question is going to be, is you need a certificate of occupancy as an apartment building. And in order to get that certificate of occupancy, that's going to come from the state farm marshal's office. They will require a full set of architectural plans under an architectural seal with NEP engineering for everything to get that done. Cities of Johnson City, City of Greenville, or you mentioned City of Bristol as well, those are exempt jurisdictions. They operate a little bit differently than the town of Unicoi. So in an exempt jurisdiction, the building official in those jurisdictions has jurisdiction authority over those residential structures. Beaches don't. They're not an exempt jurisdiction, so it's going to fall to the state farm marshal's office to do plan review and issue permits.
And I've got Joseph Strong, I believe.
Yeah, Joseph.
I got his contact, I've spoken with him. Just didn't pursue it in great detail because, like I said, the first step is to get a decision.
Sure.
Yeah, and we still end up kind of in this gray area where, kind of like you agree, rezoning is the first step. I'm glad to work with the lawyers and do whatever we need. And if that means paying $100,000 fee, so be it. But I don't think it's feasible to do the repairs to the building first before getting it rezoned. You know, we're rezoning the property in general, but, you know, I'm gonna have to.
The repairs associated with the injunction must be done first. That's court order. You do that research on exactly what their expectations are, but I think there are some corrections on our property.
Definitely agree with you on the fact that the repairs must be done. The part I'm confused about is first, I think we can rezone it regardless of doing maybe $100,000, $200,000 worth of repairs.
I understand your urgency, but the court order actually, if I read it correctly, you already heard it really put a big stumbling block on the transfer of ownership until that was done. Now, this property transferred owners in violation of the injunction. Okay, so that may be something else. Is that an incorrect? Didn't it say but before a transfer? I think this needs to get cleared up. We're not in a hurry. It doesn't matter to us at all when we rezone.
Of course, I understand.
That we're not just gonna throw out and rezone something that we don't know what's gonna happen.
You've got some homework you gotta do.
Did Ray even mention it to you, or were you aware of it?
Yeah, you've got some.
Make that he try to serve you.
And it went through a real estate agent and was closed by a title company.
It's
And
really.
so everything was 100% legit on that.
Oh, I don't question your decision. I just, I was always trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. The more you speak, the less I have faith in him. I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate to say Scheisser, but it's pretty close.
There was another problem, that's with the sewer. The sewer plant down there is owned by the city of Johnson City. So have you talked with them? Because Ray had a problem with them.
I spoke with them. I have a letter that says there's no problems as long as it's
As
the
long as we got
water
the notice of
is
use.
in service and good for the water meter.
The sewer plant.
Not the water. Water is
The
separate.
sewer plant.
So they count the water billing through, or the sewer billing.
Oh, there is a sewer
There's a
plant.
sewer plant, a
Sits
gravity
down,
fed sewer.
sits down on the creek down there, that serves, that, those parks and what people would be in that hotel.
I think the soccer facilities on it.
Yeah, there's just a few things that's on
Let me try to
it. Ray
rephrase.
had a problem, there was some sort of problem where he owed them money and they wouldn't talk to him about getting it rezoned, about doing anything else with it till he settled that problem.
What I have is a document from the city of Johnson City Sewer Department saying no problems as long as the incoming water is metered so that they can check that meter to bill appropriate for sewer. That's
Is
all.
that-
Intent, that's all I need.
Is it Johnson City Water? I thought it's Unicoi Water. Right.
They just wanted to make sure it wasn't well service
Okay.
where they couldn't meter the water usage. That was their reason.
Okay, so I am gonna make a motion. I assume we need to wrap this up somehow to
Well, it's
table this discussion.
Whether, that's all this is a
Okay,
discussion. We don't even need them.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, you've got homework to do. You need to get with the courts, find out what you gotta do, what you can, what you're legally, required to do and what you can't do. So I know one thing in there said you couldn't do anything without court's approval. You couldn't even, I think one thing said you can't even step foot on the property without court supervision. That's how bad it is.
I'm gonna chime in because he does have a rezone request submitted.
Yes,
His intention is for next month.
yes.
So how do you want that to play out?
Well, he's got, it is on, you are on the agenda for next month.
And I'd suggest bring some more goodies to show us.
Yeah, you've got some homework to do between now and then, like I say.
So I need to get a document from her saying that we're good in some way.
Well, from the court,
Yeah, not from her.
the court's approval.
Yeah.
I need to get a document from the legal facility.
District attorney, they're the
The
ones.
district attorney.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
And, maybe the letter, copy of the letter from the sewer.
That would be better.
Yeah, anything you got.
Anything else that I should, bring?
Get a good inspector to look at that place.
The state inspection.
I met with you in the office, you came down to town hall and met, and I told you one of our holdups had been, and it still is for you. We need to know exactly what that's gonna look like. We need to know exactly what it's gonna look like.
Would you like me
That place up there is a thorn in our side. Criminal activity, a dead body.
It
that place
kept
is a
our
thorn in
police
our
department
side.
constant.
The people that live up there are over it. They're over it. It's devalued their properties. They don't feel safe walking around there. We want to look at what it's going to look like. That's what we asked from Ray. He never could do that. He never brought us what he wanted to look at. I told you the same thing in our office. I want to see drawings of exactly what it's going to look like. An engineering plan, an architect plan, and that's just what Mr. Sullivan just told you. You're going to need those things. That's what I asked you for when you asked to meet with me in the office. It's the same thing we asked Ray for. They never brought us. We never resigned. We were not convinced he was actually going to put something in there that met a standard that we were expecting, let alone fixing these court injunction issues. So are you hearing what I'm saying?
I am hearing what you desire, and I have great desires to fulfill what you want. However, I do feel like it's like one step at a time. Now, before, like you said, before I can get an occupancy permit,
Occupancy is way down the road.
right, all of that has to be provided. So if you're thinking, is he ever going to do it? I must do it before I can get the occupancy provided. But do I have to do it as the first step? Do I need to spend $250,000 before I get it rezoned?
Well, if you were gonna spend the $250,000 after you got it rezoned, why not spend it before you rezoned it, if it's all part of the plan to get this done?
Well, because money accrues interest. So should I spend the $250,000 and pay interest on it for 6 months?
We are
Or should I
protecting,
go-
we're protecting our citizens that live in that area. So I've talked to you about what I think this board expects, because we've already done this around the Mulberry Bush with Ray. And I think our board, I hear nodding, yes, no, maybe, I think we're on the same page. We have to see it and know that's what's gonna happen up there.
There are
So,
many ways. that I
Bring
can
that
show you.
to us before we are going to be willing to resign.
And not just us, those people that live around that golf course have
Yeah.
taken a hard hit in the last couple of years. There, you're gonna have to make them happy too.
I've spoken to some of the neighbors already. I really feel that's going to
And
be.
you may have hit one or two, but there's still a lot of people out there that just, they're not real happy with things, so.
So I think.
A lot of things that you listed in here, look at that this engineering study that was done almost 2 years ago.
It's
And there's a lot of things that's left out.
I just did the major ones in there.
Basically, real major, like the side wall is falling.
That's the one where I have the stamped drawing from an
The
architect.
pipes,
Sure,
and
it's,
Yeah.
all the pipes in the basement are corroded and it goes on and on. Upper walkways are crumbling.
And there's a swimming pool out there that was filled with debris from those rooms, and that needs to be addressed.
I was told by one of the neighbors, I don't know if it's true, the debris was pulled out and it was filled with dirt.
As far as I know, it wasn't pulled out, but it was topped off with dirt.
Yeah, 3 residents here tonight, and we really have to live out there. And I don't know, hey, to ever get all the meth out of that building, nothing, we've met that for years. So we're not interested in seeing that going back that way or anything like that. So we are very cautious as to what comes in.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there actually is quarantine rooms, it was the owner at the time had cleaned up, to my knowledge, they've never cleaned up. That's something you have to do with the Tennessee Dangerous Drugs Task Force to see if the actual quarantine, the rooms are still there. I know the 2 rooms, they split on, and like I said, I don't know if they've ever been cleaned up, and that's, you're looking for the head team and stuff to come in and clean it, you're looking quite a bit of money, and over the years, it's, who knows how bad it is. You know, we do our best to get everything out there, but the head team has to come in and actually clean it off. So there is quarantine and stuff on that deal, that rain, irrigation, that take care of.
You can help me out and get in contact with
So it's a dangerous drugs task force.
Could I just make one remark?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not over here in town, and just recently, the town bought the service building that was at the soccer. And these plans, the mayor tells you you have to have, because we are changing use of that building. Us as a town, and these guys will tell you, that we have to have these same drawings for that building then, before we can make our own changes in our own property. And we have to go through the fire marshal as our town. So they're not asking you to do anything we're not having to do for ourselves. It's just the state law, and it's frustrating, because we could have had that building ready for some, our fire department and our ambulance service to move in. But in order to be correct by law, we've got to have all these drawings, just like they're telling you got to have. So it's change of use.
Yep.
Is that right? You're not gonna make that.
All right, we will, again, you got your homework, you know, check with Chief Hughes. I'm sure the town attorney will help you.
I only have
Answer.
one question, quick,
Okay.
and that's the lawyer. Would we even be legally able to move on something that's, wouldn't that be a violation of the law somewhere? I mean, would it be invalid if we were to approve a rezoning and it had all these stipulations? I mean, either they'd say we're idiots or.
We certainly can't override anything the court would do. This
Right.
is a very large.
So I mean,
area.
would that put us in violation? I mean, if we should be aware that we can't do anything until that's resolved.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but then I would still go ask the same question, does that say forbidden from rezoning? If not, then I don't think it would be.
We would like some questions answered by the court. So that's, we need to find out, what do they expect exactly from you, the new owner, okay?
Did you say you had an extra copy?
Yes, I would like to give this to you.
All right.
The last degree order has a copy of the.
That's right.
Y'all can dictate as you wish.
Yep.
what property you wish.
That's right. All right. Nothing else on the agenda. Anybody here like to address the board?
I've got something I'd like to say.
Yeah.
I've handed out a couple pieces of paper already. but-
Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah.
I'm Alan Williams. I've lived in Unicoi for over 29 years. And I'm here to address, I own a piece of property in Shepherd Branch on lot 6. I'm here to.
Well, I know that we're talking about Flax rezoning, but I think he just wants to bring his
I just kinda wanna
issues
ask some
for us to
questions.
listen to.
Yeah,
That then the DTA can use or whatever as we move forward.
so.
Go ahead.
I handed out, if you don't have it, I've got extras, but, I own lot 6, the lot that I'm kind of concerned about is lot 5, which is directly behind me. It's got a partial structure on it. And so I originally bought that piece of property, for a couple reasons. The main one was I was looking at potentially building a house and or an investment. So when I bought it, it had specific restrictions, and that's why I felt comfortable buying it, because I knew the value of the property would be maintained and should increase, given the area and the restrictions were kept. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the 9 restrictions. There's 3 that I am concerned about that are not currently being met, or again, are simply devaluing my property, so I'm considering selling it. And right now, this is a major concern because it's been, I guess, in question for me over 6-7 months now. So, and I know there's been approvals previously, but at some point, I think there's other ones beyond the approval that's concerning. So number 1, I'm going to read it aloud, and then I'll tell you why I believe it's concerning. It says the property shall be used for residential purposes. No structures shall be erected, altered, placed, or permitted to remain on any portion of the herein described property other than one single-family dwelling of each tract with attached or semi-attached garage, carport, or utility buildings. So primarily, number one, I would like to say the structure that is on there currently resembles a garage. And I would say it's a partially finished structure, and it's been there for over 6 or 7 months. Granted, I do think they've made progress. And I have no issue with it being, I know stuff's hard to get right now, stuff's pricey, but I also spoke to, and maybe she can help me understand, I have some friends that are on the legal side of things, and that their understanding was the same as mine based upon reading this. The house is the prerequisite based upon it says the whole idea for the property is a single family dwelling. Instead, over the last 6 months, they've been approved to have their camper there, they've been building a garage. So as my property value, I'm sitting here looking at it, my property is being devalued because there's a partially finished garage here with a camper sitting there for going on almost a year now. Again, and I have no issues with garage, I'm all about it, but fundamentally, there needs to be a house there. And that's a prerequisite that is not met on that one. The second one, it says only quality construction of a permanent nature will be permitted. Building material of all structures to be erected shall be of quality frame or masonry construction. Exposed concrete or cinder block foundation is prohibited. All garages, carports, and utility storage buildings must be the same material as the residence. So again, going back to the prerequisite, there needs to be a residence before there can be another structure on the property. There's not a residence there for that structure to match. The second issue I have, and I have no issues with metal buildings, there are a lot of really nice metal structures. However, this metal structure, I would question, and according to the last sentence, it must match the residence. So are they going to build a metal house there? That's another concern. There's not many metal houses that I would say are of quality frame. I mean, there are some, but it's few and far between. So that's another concern that I have, that according to this, they would need to match their house to the structure retroactively. Another one, just not necessarily called out here, but there are power lines where the garage is currently located. The lower half of their property, there's power lines that run across it. So I'm concerned with, even if they do build a large metal house to fit into this, I don't know how it's going to fit underneath power lines within the regulations of where they need to place it. But primarily there, again, the fact there is not a house when there's required to be a single family dwelling, and the fact if they are they going to build it out of metal? Because that's one of the requirements, and I don't think that's realistic. The last point I'm going to touch on is number 5. And like I said, I do know that it has been requested, and I'm fully support people having time to build what they need. I fully support if they need time to live in their camper, that's fine. However, again, that would be my understanding, and I may be incorrect, so I was not here the first time. When it's approved, I assumed it was based upon your all's understanding if they're going to build a single family structure, some kind of home. Well, instead, it's been a garage that is not completed, and it's been there again almost ongoing a year, and it's still not completed. So I will read number 5. It says, no trailer, modular home, garage, tent, or other building shall be placed upon the described property for use as a residence. This restriction does not prevent keeping or temporary location of recreational vehicles. So again, I have no issue with their camper being there as long as they need to build, but at some point, temporary also, like, I mean, I don't want it to be 5 years temporary building, like there's going to be some kind of time frame. Combined on the single fact that I assume when it was granted by you all in the first place, that it was based upon the assumption they were going to build a family residence per the restrictions of this neighborhood. That's not the case. So based upon a landowner in Unicoi County, I'm very concerned about my property value, especially as I'm considering selling it, given the current state. And I don't know really what avenues there are, because like I said, even if they do build and try to match this, are they going to build a metal house? Like, there's a lot of questions I have and concerns concerning my property here. So, yes, ma'am.
Have
permits been pulled at this site?
Yes.
Okay, so what I know is back in December, we had granted them a variance to build a house at the bottom of Shepherd's Ranch Court. We granted the variance because they owned several lots of that way, and that they were wanting to utilize one driveway to access all those lots. The variance was granted, they got that. there was a building permit submitted to the town showing 2 garages at the bottom with the residence on top. And there's been some communication, we've been in contact with the property owner, we were trying to figure out when to get this resolved. So it's not going unnoticed.
Okay.
She's earlier today, but we're gonna have to wait and have you speak until we get to the BZA, which is gonna be right in just a minute, okay? But we are in contact with her, we are working with her, the town as well as the building inspector, trying to figure out the best way to handle the situation.
Right, and I appreciate y'all listening. I'm not trying to be a pain in the rear end, but there is concern from my side as a property owner, especially deciding, do I want to build here, or do I want to sell it? And it's going on a year now, and it's not matching what, partially the reason I bought the property was because it had restrictions that should prevent some of these things from happening.
Okay, thank you, sir.
This is just a portion of it, is there a way I can email me the full document?
Yes, I should have. That's the main, I know the main main restriction, but I should have that at my house. Alright, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Staff, you all have anything for us? Okay. Motion adjourned, second? All right, all in favor? All right, thank you all.
Who made the motion? Everybody was kind of. Wanda, Charles seconded?
Yeah.
Stay with us.
All right, BZA's up next.
BZA's up next.
BZA's up next.
Low ride.
I got it.
I knew, I printed those off.
I got it. I'm on it.
Good, how about you?
Doing good.
Stay busy?
Very.
No.
I'm done with school. So I got moved my master's. So that's good, just working now. And I qualified for the US Women's Mid-Am, so I'm moving next week to Florida. I'm already thinking about that. It's a week, it's like 7 days, for a straight study, so I'm pretty excited. And you take a class, and Coach killed us. Our costs doubled. And we're just trying to, actually can't get mad, but like, they're just trying to get back to where we can afford it, and then we'll be hopefully back, but it's just.
I'm sure that you knew about all of that.
These backgrounds? Yeah. I know. Yeah, my Google, but I don't have Facebook, more like it's there. But where it's just mom and dad, they're like, we're gonna slowly leak it because we don't want to get overwhelmed. But if it goes then though, I think we'll be able to recuperate some costs that we lost. So like, we were having to split this with my check, dad, they were out there on a fixed income. And it's just like, this is not fun anymore.
We had to say that. I don't know what they had.
We appreciate it, we really do. Yeah.
34 years of compensation. My kids are talking about Yeah, I like the way.
The, small mix actually really good.
She had to go.
Yeah, that's fun, because dad is actually a really good mix. On the gym. That's so funny. That's so funny. Because like, an order came back to him.
Now, what happened?
And, Bob was like, can you do it? Dad was like, I think so. I have a question.
It's a civil matter. That specifically is a civil matter. Specifically, though, what he's concerned about is a civil matter specifically. But there's other issues.
I figured it was. Overweight. Yeah. That's what I thought when you were reading it all. It sounded like hey, are you planning on? Okay. We haven't met since.
Oh, we have.
A while. So.
Me too. We're doing a water. Now, give me a chocolate bar.
To the right. Oh, but are they gone?
Yeah. I'll look at it.
Here, I'll let you, all right, here.
Long time no see.
Is he wanting to be here? I don't know where they all went.
Right now.
Okay, you stay ready. I'm gonna need a gown.
Looks like he's.
All right, easy day.
We call the BCA over to meeting, please.
We're gonna get easy in real quick. It's okay, I'm just letting you know.
On Wednesday, September 7th, 2014, welcome everyone. We'll start out with our, out of order. No call.
Richard Doris.
Here.
Kathy Bullen. Here. Wanda Radford. Charles Day.
Here.
Allison Woodward. Here.
Hey, has everybody had a chance to look over their June 6, 2022 BCA minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Richard Doris.
Here.
Kathy Bullen.
Yes.
Yes. Wanda Radford.
Yes.
Charles Day.
Yes.
Allison Woodward. Yes.
Okay, and I think this will, be, Mrs. Platts, if you will stand, for the administration of the oath and raise your right hand and state who you are and who you live.
Andrea Slav, 100 Shepherd's Branch Court, Unified Tennessee, and also 3636 Oklahoma, Portland.
Okay, so you affirm to tell the the truth as far as you know it before this board, the truth and all the truth as you know it. Okay, thank you, you may be seated. On old business, we don't have any, and on new business is consideration and approval for an extension on a temporary use permit requested by Andrea Flats to allow an RV to be placed on the property during the continued construction. The property is located at 200 Shepherd Banks Court, Newport, Tennessee. Property identified as tax map 002, parcel 026.01. Okay. Motion to put over there for discussion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion to second for discussion, okay? We have we had previously given her a permission to put her RV on there, when she came in, I think we gave it, wasn't a 3 foot variance on one side that didn't match the back of it, it's the variance we could allow.
Yeah, it was 3 foot, the variance was so they own several lots up that way, and their plan was, I think, at one point put multiple, maybe like a house on different lots, anyway, it was to allow for them to use the same driveway instead of having to, develop more than one, so the variance was granted for a home to be shifted 3 feet.
I think on that one side, it was kind of irregular, the way it came up and kind of slanted, and it needed that to level it all out. It was the land for the 30 feet there.
Okay, this consideration is an extension, request for an extension. When was it first approved? Has it been 6 months? Or is it we're just in our first
The next
6 month interval? Yes.
Yes, true, the variance was for the driveway, and lot 5 is separate from lots 3 and 4, which were all combined. So there's one lot full combined in the back. Lot 5 is next to the neighbor that spoke, that he has, I think it's lot 6. So the intention was when they came down to work on the property, we could stay in the camper. It's been extended, I don't know, the original request, I don't know exactly when it was, but they run for 6 months at a time. Okay, so the 6 months is up. We were supposed to be able to move into this home, have a second level. Shoot, I didn't use that one.
Okay, it's okay.
Two.
Take your time.
They're supposed to have living space above the garage, the storage area below. Yes, it's supposed to be a residence. And our contractor,
Ms. White, is it okay if I speak and you could interrupt me if you need to? They pulled permit, I don't remember the date, it's been over a year ago since the original permit was pulled. They live out of state, they were working with a contractor, didn't pan out, they tried to get another contractor. COVID was ongoing, material prices were increasing, they changed their intent of what they were going to do. And somehow in all this process, we did not get a revised set of plans for what they were proposing.
so, thank you. We were given pictures of what was happening with the property. When they finally came down, it was not right. Everything was going wrong. Things weren't, door sizes weren't right, window sizes weren't right. We looked at the actual slab and everything was just off kilter. We told the contractor to leave and not come back. We had another contractor take a look at the property. And he said, I don't think you will be able to put a second level on. So that totally changed us having a living space above. I contacted Dwight and said, things have changed, what do I need to do? We were supposed to get a soil test done in order to make sure that, because it wasn't done before the pad was poured. And so at the time that was requested, I reached out to several places. I reached out to, I think it was Precision Engineering. One of the engineers said that he was gonna contact White. I thought that was done. It didn't happen. So we continued on with the project. I had a new contractor. And we had made 2 garage doors instead of a garage and a lower entry. So my intention was still that we could have a residence there. Yes, it looks like a garage because it has 2 garage doors there and an entry door. So we've had discussions about what our options are. Can we combine the property into one? Can that structure still be there? And I think, I don't know if that, I still have questions about the front and rear, and you were talking to Asher about that. Anyway, I still want to have a residence there. So we can still have a residence on that lower level, have 2 garage doors the way they set now, have an entry door. Things have dragged out for so long with that previous contractor that, yes, I need another 6 months so that, yes, I can stay in my camper. The original plan was in May, when he was putting the trusses on for the 2nd story, he was gonna be done in another month, and we were gonna be able to move in. That didn't happen, everything changed. So that's why I'm asking for permission to stay in our
Well, my question would be, I think on this, is we got the subdivision regulations that number one would have to comply with that, is that correct, Dwight? On the regulations.
It's what Alan was referring to, our deed restrictions. That, the town has no jurisdiction over deed restrictions for a subdivision. The zoning, the town has jurisdiction over zoning. But the document that he was referencing, I have not seen before, and I don't think Asher had seen it before either. So I think that's just simply a deed restriction for the property in that subdivision.
What is the
Organization.
I only have a part of it. He's going to email it to me, and I'm gonna look over it. I can send it out if everybody wants it. I have not seen it, and I won't speak on it because I don't know what.
Well, and once again, we don't have authority to enforce a homeowner's.
Because when we purchased the property, we weren't given any documents as far as the subdivision.
I've got a problem here and
Okay, so our business here tonight is to consider extension for 6 more months of your camper being on that property. And I made a motion to approve, and there was a second, and we had discussion. Sorry.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, Richard seconded.
No, I mean, I give
Everybody
her
good
one
with
to
the
take.
discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
She's gotta be here to work on it.
Roll
She's
call.
gotta.
Richard Doris,
Yes.
Kathy Rowland,
Yes.
Wanda Radford,
Yes.
Charles Day,
Yes.
Allison Woodruff.
Yes.
You have your, and she has from 6 months until starting today, or 6 months for the RV, correct?
The application dated something, the time it ended to the decision.
Okay, so that's what we need to put,
Without answers.
that's what we need to have it.
Okay.
So I think when it was in September.
The application was submitted on August 23rd.
Okay, so August 23rd, so 6 months.
It says here.
January. Yeah, so it's, so you're good to 3/1/23. 2023.
And I don't think this will be a stumbling block. I think you've got enough other stumbling blocks. This will be just a hoop to jump through if you need it after March. This will be the easy.
Have you found another contractor?
I'm sorry?
Have you found another contractor?
Yes, so far. So, yes.
Are you going to be able to, are you going to be able to do your Sunday checker so that it won't make it
We're
fall through
hoping
the cracks as much?
I quit my job in Minnesota because we were supposed to be moving in, so.
No.
But yeah, we're more.
So essentially, the issue is now there's a freestanding garage on the property. So typically, a residence is implemented and then the accessory dwelling unit is also, can be built, but it's usually behind the house. There was miscommunication. A second building permit was not submitted with the new plan of a sole garage. So that's kind of where we're at now. How to fix it and address it to match with the county employee zoning and subdivision regulations.
The structure itself has changed. I can still put a residence in the structure that is there now. And that's the plan.
Which satisfies the
And that,
criteria.
and that satisfies also the inspection too, doesn't it?
It doesn't match the
Like you
original
say.
building permit, but that's what I needed to know is if I needed to resubmit a building permit. But the soil test is what we need to do.
Yeah, we need to get that, and then once I have that from your engineer, then I need to see a set of plans. And the single family plans do not have to be by a design professional, you just, as long as I have a set of drawings showing what you're putting there, that's all we do. But the first step is the soil evaluation.
Yeah, and it keeps going.
Okay.
You said if you hear those people.
Okay.
She has been responsive to requests that we've made with the being out of state, trying to do this, it's been very difficult for them. But when we have communicated, we have been able to make progress. It's kind of challenging with the distance.
If we could keep the communication open, so if anything else were to come up, we would handle the way these things happen. So hopefully, we won't run into any more issues or have to come before the board or anything else. If we could just keep that line open, once plans are submitted, I would like to see those, just so I have those for my record. So there's like a more deviation or room for misinterpretation, because that's just kind of what happened before. So yeah, just keep that open with me, just keep me informed so I know how it's going to move forward.
Did you say you'll be ready to put it in?
Well, not yet. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing? The man that spoke, I used to be real estate agent, and when that was developed, the developer would have had to have a plat and a list of the deed restrictions for the community subdivision. And that would be a record that the Till's office and our, you wanted to get a copy of the plat. And it would have all these restrictions where you could marry up your plans and the deed restrictions to not have that cross the record.
You know, we asked for that copy, we never got it, and then we were told we were the majority owners anyway. So if they can't vote, we would.
But you want to do the copy of that in the courthouse.
Yeah,
That plat would be a record also.
If you're a majority owner, then you can overturn the covenant.
Yeah. But yeah, but we need, I mean, everything figured out.
But it should be, when you signed, the documents when you bought the property, it should have been a part of just like he signed, you can see at the bottom. But, I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a BZA opinion, that was a Allison opinion, so if we could just not write that down.
And we voted? Any other business?
make the motion to adjourn.
No, there's no other business, and we make, German, second, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye. Yes, that should be.
Aye.